All right, we are live at Cactus Country with Jim Hall and Oreo and Prickles and Tan.
On the other camera.
So don't forget, we're open till 7 p.m. tonight. So if you want to drop in for a cocktail or a beer and have a look.
Tomorrow night, John?
Oh, and tomorrow night. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. Perfect. And Dad's going to do a little flowering tour today. So we're going to wander around the garden and see what's out today and what's coming out over the next few days so that you know to come on the weekend.
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to start here, and you can see it's a little bit rainy. Tan, I think you should get a shot of John with his sexy umbrella there. So these are a lot of our hybrids that came from probably 15 years ago here flowering, and they're what are called Labivias, but they're much thicker than the normal species types. So these are yellows, and you can see that because it's overcast, these day flowering ones aren't opening up properly yet. And you can see over here, if you look across here, is a different hybrid that's been flowering from very early, a lot of dead flowers. So unfortunately that's what happens. And you'll see a bit of that sometimes, but that's the nature of the game. And we're going to go through here and we'll show you some more colours.
After you, sir.
Everybody tread carefully, you don't want any impaled people.
And as we go around, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments.
So these beautiful things here are what we call Serencias, and these are, we call them Theo's Serencia hybrids. And you can see that they've got a much longer flower stem than normally, or tube, than what they normally have.
Dogs.
I'll show you these ones over here. This is Serencia brucei, and you can see that the flower is quite small and the tube is very short. So a lot of the Serencias and those types, the early ones, had very small flowers and very short tubes. But as they've been crossed with Echinopsises, they've got this longer tube. And then behind me here is one of Cactus Country's improved types. And this has, as you can see, a much bigger flower, opens up more, particularly when the sun's shining, but they've been drenched by rain last night. So just so that everybody knows, if you look up this way with the camera, guys, you can see that some of them are opening up now, even though we've only been out here. There's a bit more light for probably 10 minutes or so. They weren't open very much when we first came out, but they're starting to open now because the light's improving. And even back over where we were, they're opening up over there.
Somebody's
so
asked.
They're actually triggered by sunshine.
I've got David Balella who's asked, which cactus has the largest flower? Just in general, I guess it would be the cereus, wouldn't it? Or the trichocereus?
Probably some of the trichocereuses. They've got very big flowers, and what are they called? Queen of the Night has a very, very large flower.
And is Queen of the Night an epiphyllum?
It's a Selenocereus.
That's right.
And it's used for making heart preparations, I believe, the flowers.
Oh, wow.
Preparations from the flower. So we've got some white, pinks, yellows happening along here. The weekend, all these buds are going to be open probably tomorrow, and all these flowers, because of the mild weather, will reopen for 2 to 3 days. So that's what makes for a stunning show, is when you've got lots of buds that will open over 3 days. And normally on a hot day, these flowers would be gone in 24 to 48 hours, absolutely gone. But these were open yesterday, a lot of these, and they'll keep opening up for 3 or 4 days. And that's what makes for the really, really big displays. And if we go up this way, guys, so a lot of these are what, in old terms, they're called Echinopsis now, but they used to be Labivias because they're an echinopsis. Where can we see an echinopsis? We must have an echinopsis somewhere. Oh, back here. I'll show you what used to be an echinopsis.
Hi from Texas, USA.
These are echinopsises. These mounded plants around through here. So you can see that they form tight mounds, generally speaking. Now, of course, all these rules don't apply to everyone within a genus, but they just apply to some. Most is a better word. So you can see they're very different. The echinopsis in the old classifications was very different to the Cerensias, and the Cerensias were quite fat and grew into quite large, just fat plants. And then we had the ones that were a bit more upright, grew up quite a bit more, and they were called the bivias, had coloured flowers. The trikes, which if you look to the left there, those fattish ones there with a bit of disease in them from the past, they are a tricho. And they look different, and they have white flowers, always have white flowers.
I see a few people chucking in the comments or throwing into the comments where you're from. So as we're walking around, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from.
Got a question.
Yep.
Which cactus has fruit?
Which
That's
cactus
fruit.
has fruit?
Yep.
All cactus have fruit, but if you're talking edible, if we look around to the left, a lot of the cereus here, like this one, have fruit. I was thinking, yes, up the end, guys, we'll show you some fruit. And the trichocereus also have fruit.
Oh, let's come back to these flowers here too. The gladiatus.
So there you can see the fruit up there, on that big tall cereus there. It's really hard to pick them though.
Oldest cactus on display.
The oldest cactus on display would be about 60 years old. Is that right, Dad?
Probably a little bit more than that because they came as old plants, but they were kept in pots. So you can see how big this plant is, and there's plenty of fruit up there. We've got one. So this is called the Peruvian apple.
Oh, here we go.
That's called a very small Peruvian apple. But yes, when you peel it, so it has no spikes on the fruit, which is what makes it attractive to most people. And inside you have a fruit, so just like an orange, squeeze out the flesh.
And what do we use this in the kitchen?
We use this in making jam. And do we use the fruit?
Yeah, in the cactus ice
In
cream.
the cactus ice cream, that's right.
Yeah.
The flavouring for the cactus ice cream.
It's delicious, actually.
So it's really good. Very, very popular.
God, we just sounded so convincing. Everyone's like, oh, I'm definitely going to try that.
Let's get over to the back. So you can see here, guys, plant with all these buds that are going to open, or just starting to open, actually. So they'll all be open later today if the sun comes out for us.
The red flowering barrel-shaped ones earlier were brucei, weren't they?
Yeah, they were now echinopsis, but they were Cerensia brucei.
They used to be called Cerensia brucei, so if you type that into Google, you'll find them.
We'll walk down here and then we'll go into the orange trail. So we've got some Clystos, a hybrid, Trichocereus there.
There's a video on YouTube about that one, when it's flowering.
Clystos are looking fantastic at the moment with all their red flowers against the white spines or reddish white.
And especially after the rain.
And for you tricho people over there or up here, maybe a better one, a lot easier. This is Trichocereus peruvianus rosei. Nice and blue, very fat.
So this is a Fields,
This is a Fields.
and this would now be also in the Melbourne exhibit.
Yes, But these plants came from a collection. So these are clones from the collection from South America in the 1930s, I think, early 1930s, I think it was.
Wow.
So these are actually cuttings, and that's what we call a clone. So they're a piece that's taken off, and then somebody grows it in another location. So that's a clone. Whereas when you look around here to the other side here, this is not a clone, this is a jade. So a jade is a seedling that we've grown from the plants, and they are completely different to a plant that's a clone, because that is exactly the same genetic material as what came from the wild.
Yeah.
This plant was born and raised here. And you can see that it's a psychonaut seedling, open pollinated. And then over here we've got some of the ground trichocereus flowering. And then, like John was saying, I think we've got a few he was going to show you, but he didn't go back to it.
The gladiatus. There's some more gladiatus. Where are they? No. What do you?
All trichocereus have white flowers that are similar.
Somebody asked if that one earlier had mealybug. No, they don't. Oh, Itai's tuned in. Have you got some intergeneric hybrids to show?
Intergeneric. Not at the moment, but maybe another day, Ty will do a from the hothouse.
Yeah, from the hothouse live, Itai, when you come up.
So these are some of the earliest Serentia crosses that I did from the late 1980s. Raised as seedlings. And they're, you know, you can see that over a period of time they get to be quite large plants.
How big do you think these are now?
Well, how big do I think they are? That's how big they are. I don't think they are.
They're about 1 metre tall and clumped out. They're about 1 metre to 1.2 metres wide.
Just in case you guys are doubting it, I'm not 5 metres high. I'm about a bit under 2 metres, so if it's half my height, it's roughly a metre. And probably that's 30 to 40 centimetres across. And as they age out, you can see the pups up there on that one, say at the top there. On the left, you can see that the pups are small, but on the right, you can see the older piece that's laying down. So the plants have a soft centre, and as they get bigger, they'll lean over onto the ground, or sometimes they'll break off. And then if you leave them alone, they'll regrow up like they are there. And then when they get really tall again, around 1 metre, 1.5 metres, if that part hasn't got pups supporting it, it'll fall down to the ground again. And that's how they grow along the ground. Or they spread. So you'll see some, over the back, you'll see some extreme examples of hybrid plants that are doing exactly that.
I've got more followers than you.
Rude.
Over here we've got a red-spined Labivia hybrid, or I don't know whether, I'm pretty sure it's a hybrid, but it's not one of mine. It's one that came with one of the collections that we bought, and we've multiplied it. It grows quite vigorously. It has a red spine, but a beautiful yellow flower. And then we've got probably the Chicken-Dancii yellow, and maybe a trike. I think the other one's a trike cross.
I was telling everyone they were just Labivias the other day, so edit.
This here is one of the small, also one of the small trikes, and so you can see it has a big white flower and the long tube with a bit of hair on it.
It's like a trumpet.
Like a trumpet, yes, but they will open right out at the end.
Yeah.
And they're more than 100. When they open out, they're probably 150 to 200 wide. So it's a pretty big flower on that one.
Kerry Scott says, watching live for the first time, this is brilliant. Love the cactus insights. Thanks, Kerry.
Over here we've got Purpureopolosis, Trichocereus purpureopolosis. It took me quite a while to get my tongue around that one originally. And that's Also, you can see the white flower, but these ones stay open at night, and a lot of the trichocereus, the flowers do stay open at night. And some of them will close up during the day and then reopen. And then another treat that I saw flowering the other day, this here is for the trike guys, Tequimbalensis, or known as tack. This is one that's, we just call it Cactus Country because there's different seedlings that have been grown in Australia from different sources, and each plant from a seedling batch is slightly different. So the only way to have this particular plant is you purchase a piece of it from some of the plants here or somebody else is growing of this particular plant, and that's a clone.
So Dad, you were saying the other day in another live video we did about why these spines curve at the top.
Why they curve at the top? Well, these ones don't really curve at the top, but
Have a look at this new growth over here. You'll see the curved spines on this
while
part.
they're really soft, if you get a lot of really, like even a day like this when it's wet weather and you get a bit of rain falling down, it can curve them. So it's just, but on Tequimbalensis or tack, some of these, the different forms, these spines are really curved outwards and quite long, whereas this one here is thick-spined and quite compact. And normally there's around, I think 15 to 20 spikes. So you just count them like that on the radial, and then you've got 4 central spikes. On this particular one, that's normal, around 3 or 4 central spikes, and 10, around the 10 on the outside to 12. Depending on where you look. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't realise who are new to growing trikes is less spikes on the aerial at the top, and when you go down to the bottom, they can actually, when you get a really good season, they can actually do some new spikes. So I don't know whether we can see any on this one because this plant's actually on the edge of the garden, so the water drains off quite readily. But when you go back, we've had a good rainy winter, and a lot of back there where it normally just runs off is soaked in, and the plants are doing really well. So at the back here we've got J18, which is one of our really well-known jays. Very long spine Psychonaut cross with something, have no idea what. And you can see some of the new spines here that I was just talking about coming out and growing.
Brett Morris says, I like your spikes. What's your fave cactus?
I don't have a favourite cactus anymore, they're all good.
Thinking of favourite child, or
Yeah.
wouldn't be John.
No, he's got a favourite.
Benny here is one of my favourites. This is named after my niece who passed away, and it's has a lovely flower on it. We think that I think that it's a cross between a Cerentia or a Libivia and a epiphyllum. And the reason I say that is because I never had any purple coloured cactus whatsoever anywhere. And you can see this beautiful purplish sheen on the outside of the petals there on this. And Dr. Werdeman, which was an epiphyllum that I had, and it grew in that pot. So it was taken from within the hanging basket that had Dr. Werdeman in it. And only one, and that's what it turned into.
Somebody asked about the bees as well. If you want to talk about bees and our beehives.
Bees? Bees go bzzz.
Does your garden attract many bees during flowering? Are there beehives in the vicinity?
Thousands and thousands of bees. They come from everywhere on a good day, on a sunny day. If you can't hear a bee here at the moment or see a bee anywhere, if the sun comes out and it warms up a little bit, there'll be bees here everywhere. Unfortunately,
Oh, look at this honeybird.
most of the pollen,
Can you zoom in on that?
he's getting nectar. from the flowers.
Where'd he go?
He's just down.
Oh, he disappeared. There he
There
is.
he is. And he's raiding insects and things from off the side of the plant.
Wow, their ability to hover is just incredible.
So that's Trichocereus. I call it Volianus. I'm not sure.
Oh, this is Volianus.
But it's one of the ones with the largest flowers. So that is a clone from Fields. That is the original Volianus from Fields. Pleistocactus Candelaris down here, flowering. And that's when it flowers like that, it looks stupendous.
Ronald asks, how do you manage pests and disease on such a large scale?
We try our best.
We try our best.
We use the acid now momentarily. I've forgotten. It's
Phosphonic acid.
phosphonic. Try always get the phosphors mixed up. Phosphonic acid or Yates anti-rot. But
Yeah.
it's really good, but you can't overspray it because you can get some reaction with sunlight and it can burn some plants. So you've got to be very careful to stick to the 3 weeks if you're in doubt until you've tested.
Got a
Alright,
question
go
from
over
Mrs.
into the
McLaughlin.
hybrid section.
If we come with a photographer, do we need your permission to do a photo shoot during our visit?
Yes, we do have commercial photography fees and non-commercial. So depending on the type of shoot will depend on the fee. But yes, flick us an email or find the photo shoot page on the website and we'll be happy to help.
First off, going down into the orange trail, this is a species plant. It's, I don't know, maybe it's a Serentia type, but it came from very early on and I think from Fields, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But it's one that grows quite tall. It usually gets up to around about 2 meters high. And you can see once again the smaller flower. So you'll see the difference now when we go down. So just so you've got an idea of the size of the flower, that's probably 50 across. And then we'll go down to the hybrids.
Do you want to talk about this big guy that's fallen down while we're here or come back to that?
Yeah, that's a big guy falling down.
Big guy falling down. Man down, man down.
And that's a Dawson.
Could have been a female. Let's not discriminate.
Okay. So you can see out here in the next couple of days there's going to be a lot of flowers out. Probably tomorrow and Sunday and Monday will be stupendous, but we're not open on Mondays.
So don't come on Monday.
Okay, you can see when you look through here, you can see all these plants that are flowering. 99% of these and the cacti, standard big ones, 99% of them are hybrids. So on the left we have what we call a Dawson. We have 12 Dawsons and they are F1s from Bendigo, from what's called the Dawson's collection. So they're F1s, which means they're a cross between Dawson's plants that they have on the property there, and I'm not sure what these ones, in the original days, no one was interested in who, what came from where when I started this collection, and so they were seedlings that I either bought from Bendigo or acquired from friends who grew some seed from there. And you can see the one down, unfortunately, was our big blue plant. And the weight of the growth this winter with all the extra growth and moisture and weight it put on, just ripped all the roots one night after a heavy rain. And the ground had got loosened, and you can see down here it actually just ripped this big anchor root. Once that went, the whole plant toppled over in that direction, even though it was propped. The weight went round the prop.
Would this be a good time to promote our new auctions page, Tan?
Go for it, guys.
Plug. So Tan on Cactus Country Plants has just released an auctions page for rare plants from Cactus Country. So there'll be some new plants that we don't normally sell coming up and available on there. We do have a wait list for the cuttings that are here, but we do plan to auction some on that auction site as well.
And this baby here will be on it.
And that baby there will be on it.
Adopt me.
Adopt me, please. I want a new home. So a few questions here, actually. We've got a lot of interested people in the comments today. Do you fertilize? If so, with what and when? David Bilella.
The only fertilising we've been doing this year was chook pellets. I'm trying to think what the brand was. We don't promote brands here, do we?
No, not until they sponsor us.
So if anybody's working with a fertiliser company, we're looking for a fertiliser.
Chook manure.
So these plants around here you can see are all hybrids, and the difference being that these plants were planted out in 2006 as little tiny seedlings, and you can see now how big this plant is. Much more vigorous. The other ones took probably 20 years to get to this size, whereas these ones 2006, 16, around the odd 14, but they've been big for a couple of years now. And the thing is that we went through a drought to what year? 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Went through a drought, so they hardly grew in those years, so they really didn't take off growing into 2010, 2012. Then we started to get some good growth going. So if you'd been here in 2010, 2012, the landscape would not have been like this. They would have been like this. So it gives you an idea, these plants, how much they've grown in that time.
So just
Let's move through here and enjoy some flowers. Over here, we've got a stupendous, what we call a Benson's type chilensis, Trichocereus. I don't know whether you've got to put Tosheki on. I'm no expert on naming plants.
Hi from Mexico.
so we've got with the fertilizer we use chook manure and we spread it just before a rain.
If possible.
Yeah.
You can just put it out. The water will break it apart if you get enough rain, and it'll start to go into the ground, and it gives some nitrogen. It gives low amount of nitrogen, but it gives some feed for the bugs in the ground. So it's the bugs in the ground that are important to feed. So you could also put some dolomite, lime of some sort. They love that. You can use like a carbon, something with the carbon is really good. So I'm thinking like a humus,
Kelp.
Humic acid or a humic acid pellet spread around, gives you a lot of carbon. That feeds the bugs, and the bugs enable feeding through the roots of the plant. And that's what gives you the thickening up. This plant here this winter has probably doubled the width of the stems on it.
The bees are out.
The bees are here.
How much moisture in the ground do the cactus use ultimately?
They take up until they get too big and fall over. No, well, we've had probably constant rain right through the winter, haven't we?
Yep. Yeah, it's been a wet season for sure.
So, there's one dog here and the other dog's way over there.
More flowers for you, Alan.
Can we come visit Sunday? Karen, yes, we will be open Sunday. We'll be open from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. We'd love to see you. Bradley Drysdale has asked, many first timers this year. Thanks for tuning in, Brad.
Maybe you should get some pet chickens.
Ah!
This over here is a large patch of a hybrid, very vigorous, and it is a mass flower. And that is one of the huge advantages with hybrids, is they tend to flower much more easily, and they do it season after season. But that's where the fertilizer really comes in, is that if you get growth, you get new areas for the buds to come on, and that's what gives you the extra flowering. So we get up to 10, 12 flowerings on different plants if we get a winter like this year and then we get a few rains in the spring, there's enough moisture in the ground here now to last us well till after Christmas without having to do any watering of any sort. In fact, it's actually good for them to start to dry out and try to take up the moisture from the further area.
We've got so many great questions in here, guys, so thanks so much. How do you keep the weeds and the grass away? Timothy Jones.
It's called Roundup.
It's called Roundup. And in Africa, it's called weeding.
Yes.
The succulents in Africa, if you get Roundup on them, will kill them, whereas cacti are pretty resilient to Roundup, so you can spray right up to the base, generally speaking.
So this is one we call Jim's Big Red, and it's because the plant has a broad stem that's a Libivia cross, and you can see that it's nice and compact, and it looks as though it's going to grow quite high eventually. It's a slow grower, but it's actually got a beautiful, when it's maybe another day when we do a cross, we'll hopefully get this flower, but it has a very large flower when it opens out, over 100, which for a Sorentia hybrid is extremely good, and it flowers like crazy.
Atai has asked, do you think wet winter decreased flowering this year?
No, it's improved it.
Yep, that's what I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely improved it. And then you can see here, well, it's just the start of the flowering happening now. You can see the buds on these plants and how big they are. So that's another Libivia hybrid and a Sorentia hybrid. And over here we've got a Brucei hybrid. And look at the difference in the size of this plant. It's enormous. It's had a little bit of disease in here that we're slowly eliminating. It takes time when you get a plant that doesn't have as good a resistance as some others do. You can see the plant around this side here has got no rot in it, so it has really good resistance. So this is one we would breed with. We won't breed with that. Now, Jim's Freak.
Jim's Freak. Whoops.
This is Jim's Freak. Now, people say, why Jim's Freak? It's because this plant flowered when it was this big and that high. And that's why it's a freak. And then the other one that did the same
And look at all the buds coming on it.
Yeah, and it flowers like crazy. Very hard to set seed on. So every year we just get 100 flowers. I come out and I cross absolute heaps. I had a tent over here one year and people wondered what was in the tent. But did a lot of crosses and probably got half a dozen crosses of it. And then the really difficult stage after that is you go into doing the seed raising and then you get maybe 100% seed come up and then you get nearly 100% die.
Wow.
They just don't do well. So, and this is the sister or brother, whichever way you want to go, sister plant, and this is JP14. And you can see what happened here. That plant grew so much this year that the weight became more than the plant could hold with its roots. So the roots on this plant, for the size of the plant, are actually quite insignificant. And no one, you can see down the bottom, it's just anchored by that. And it's in, if we'd known that, we would have put a thing in, but you can't look into the ground to see what's actually there.
Ronald asked, has Jim's Freak got monstrous growth happening there?
It's got a dichotomous top, which unfortunately didn't do what I would have liked it to do, and that is crest. It looks as though it's just going to go to two heads.
Mm.
So a lot of plants will do that when you get really good growth. They'll do a dichotomous, and it's just a normal thing in nature that happens.
Jennifer Littlechild says, loving your live tours, so informative. The flowers are stunning. Amazing stuff. Thanks, Jen.
What about my spikes?
You've already been complimented on your spikes.
Yeah. This plant is JP31. What happened to the tag?
Oh, it was Menno. He took it.
Oh, Menno. Well, I think it's, let me just check the number here.
And there's Dawson's 14 over there.
31.
Oh,
No,
it's probably
32.
It's probably that tag over there, is it?
32.
On the ground.
JP32 but the spines are really different to most of the others. So it's a validus type, and this was grown from a Pasicana, so it's probably a crossback. No, that's different. That's there. So it's a crossback between maybe Psychonaut, but don't know for sure because there are, at the time this was grown, there were 3 or 4 other trikes in the garden, and they a crossover. So this is a seedling from what we call Mama Pasa, which is our largest Pasicana or Tosheki eye. I don't try to argue with anybody about which is what, because honestly, I don't think anybody really 100%, other than the plant comes from Argentina, Peru, wherever they grow, and you get the seed collected from there. It's the only way to know, because I have no idea where other than it's a seedling from chromas.
Can you save the fallen one?
Oh, I have that one too.
Yes,
Do you ever try to stand them up again after they've fallen?
you must, if it's a wet winter like this, allow them to dry thoroughly before, and the ground to dry out before putting them back, because you don't want the base of the plant to start rotting up through the roots. That's disastrous. That's the worst thing that can happen. So here is some of these plants we were talking about, crosses with Volianus, with Tosheki. And you can see that you get a plant that's lying out, very, very vigorous. So this is Big John, named after the big guy there with the phone. We haven't got a tarn yet, but we'll find
That's
one.
me.
And this is just so, like, for those people who are breeders, who grow a few seeds, this is the sort of thing that I'm trying to do with mine, is get a plant that's upright, that'll grow, you know, tall like the Tosheki eyes and the normal Trichocereuses. It'll grow tall, have the flowers that are on the Volianus, great big white flowers, and we'll cross these to try and get colour. So the way to go with this sort of thing is to cross this over your coloured flowers, so you'll get some seedlings will inherit this trait for growing big and have the big flower, but hopefully coloured. Because there's plenty of white flowers. What was that, Tom?
Cobram Irrigation says, hi guys.
You
Hey.
guys get to work.
Do any self-seed by Kathy Harborough? Do any self-seed?
Yes, absolutely. Not as many as you would think. Millions of seeds every year fall on the ground. What would we pick up, Tarn? 50? Like trikes and Serencias,
Yeah.
50 at the most. And most of them are just common, like the crosses tend to be the easy crosses that everybody's done. So if you want to do particular crosses and experiment with that, you need to actually do it by hand and make sure the bees don't help you.
And look at how much the flowers have opened up with that sun.
Yes, they're all starting to open up now, like around here. This one's opened right up, so it's a day flower. So some of these coloured flower ones, Serencia hybrids over Tosheki eyes and that, they are actually day flowering, and a few of them are night flowering. So normally you would have only had coloured flowers flowering during the day because they attract different pollinators like bees, insects, and maybe in South America it would have been like your little birds, your hummingbirds, those sorts of things. But here we have all sorts of insects all the time.
How many hives have you got?
11, 12 beehives?
10 or 12 hives?
Yeah.
Yes.
Chop's got a few more now. I think he's got more.
Oh, he could have.
Yeah.
I don't try to keep up with what's happening with bees.
Ask Uncle Chop for more information. We should set up an Instagram for Chop.
No.
He'd be famous. He's a legend.
Should we always use rotting spray?
Yes.
What does that mean though? Like, because I think Dad said earlier.
See rot your spray.
Yeah.
Don't leave it. That's the difference.
And so don't overspray it either because the plant will get used to it.
Now maybe we could finish over here.
Oh, watch out, dog.
Over here. Oh, as we go by, this is our start of our new numbers, JT1.
Not to be confused with Justin Timberlake.
Yes, JT1, Monstrose Tasheki cross. You can see that it's got wild spines. It's not very vigorous because it should be as big as these other guys. So, and if anybody's interested in buying any of this one, we do have some coming up for sale of this. So you would need to contact Tom.
No, get on the auctions page.
But you can see them here, the stacker coming out the top. So it tends to, we call it splitter, because if we look around there and here, you can see these enormous splits. And you can see the monstrose thing happening down there, where it's all going weird in the top. So that's what it tends to do when it terminates. It goes weird in the top and then terminates, and then you get the new part grows from that. Okay guys, let's get this final shot over here and wrap up for today.
Stop hugging me on board.
Just let him all know that he's got the leopard print.
One of the most spectacular hybrids going around.
Eduardo's tuning in from Mexico.
Hello Eduardo. Chic pink.
Oreo.
Get out of it, you guys.
Come here.
This has got a similar look to Binny has, but it's much more, got that purplish sheen around the outside quite a bit more. I don't know what Chic Pink's parentage is.
How do they find the auction page?
Facebook. Should just come up with a search.
Go to Facebook and type in Cactus Country Auctions. Let us know how you go. Sorry, Charles.
And this is the final big display. So tomorrow, if it's not raining, or later today when it's not raining, this will look spectacular. So this is the day flowering and the scent. What's the scent? You mate, come around this side, Tan. You better smell it.
It smacks you in the face. Like, it's so
Oh,
Very
yeah.
strong.
very, very perfumed, this one.
And these are our Mexican mountain dogs, as you can see.
And you can see that the Cereus that have had a hard time over the years because they're up on the bank have actually really done well this year because the rain has soaked into the bank and they've all just taken off. And maybe a bit of the truck manure helped too.
Oh, now, Dad, somebody got a big cutting of Cereus peruvianus, and they've had it potted in cactus mix for about 2 years now, and it's still not growing, no new growth on it.
Have they watered the pot thoroughly?
Okay, and that would be the most important factor.
Well, it won't shoot roots. Some of them are hard to get to shoot roots if they don't get a good moisture around the actual root base. So a lot of people stick the base too far in, and it's raining, guys.
Yeah.
And the water doesn't actually get around the base to promote the root growth.
Exactly.
So that's what you need
sorry.
to do. Other than that, you can take it out of the pot again and stick it in some seaweed, a bit of a seaweed mixture for a while. That tends to, the hormones in the seaweed tend to fire the roots growing up.
Okay, great. I'm going to send this to that
There is
friend.
no set rule as to how it works.
And one last shot of the Peruvianus fruit. That's a nice big, and these are some of our best fruiting Cereus peruvianus. See this big fruit over here, Dad?
Yeah.
Just here.
Oh, down there. Yeah, but that's been split. I'm thinking about some big ones up here.
I would have said that's too green. Don't they redden up when they're ready?
Yeah, they do. But what happens when they're red enough is the birds
Get into
and
them.
other things get into them. And because it's growing through the winter,
Still good? Okay.
It's one thing we can't put down the line, taste.
No, I know. Do you think that the fruit is something that we'll farm in the future and grow for customers to try?
Oh, maybe.
Okay, we'll see. Stay tuned.
Israelis do it, so I mean, why couldn't we?
All right, so we're all finished with our little live tour today. I hope you enjoyed it. We do have stars enabled on Facebook, so if you'd like to donate any money for our tour, that'd be great. If not, no stress. And we are open till 7 p.m. tonight. So if you want to come in...
Promo? The more money you donate, the more we do it, guys.
Like and subscribe. So yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. And to all the comments and all the feedback we got throughout it, that was really good too. So
Thanks, guys.
we'll be doing more and more of these. Stay tuned. See ya.